In this video, I'm going to talk about the 5 best Canon FD prime lenses. Hey everybody, welcome to Dan Bullman Photography. I release new videos every Tuesday and Friday with gear reviews, portrait photography tutorials, and other videos to help you become a better photographer faster. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the 5 best prime lenses that you can get for the Canon FD system. So I'm going to go in order of focal length, starting with the shortest and going to the longest focal length. And if you're looking to get any of these lenses, I put links in the description to where you can buy them on eBay or keh.com. So lens number 1 is the 28mm f2.8. Now this lens came out in 1979 and it's a really good wide angle lens. I've used this to take some really cool night photography, cityscape photography, and things along those lines. And this lens is also very cheap. You can get them for under $100. So if you're looking to get a very cheap wide angle lens, I would look into the 28mm f2.8. It's still pretty sharp. It's not the sharpest lens I've ever used, but it's very good, and it's especially good for the price. So lens number 2 is the 35mm f2. Now there are 6 different versions of this lens. It was first released in 1971. And some of the earlier versions of the lens actually had a radioactive material in it called thorium. So the first 4 versions of the lens incorporated thorium into the construction of it. So they're actually kind of a little bit radioactive, but nothing too much to be worried about. So the latest version of the lens was released in 1979. It was a new FD lens. One of the ones that I had, I think, was a non-radioactive lens, but it was one of the breech lock versions that you sort of lock in place on the camera. Now again, this lens is super sharp. If you want to do landscapes or street photography or even portraits, the 35mm f2 is a fantastic lens. Like I said, it's super sharp and it just gives you outstanding quality photos. Now these lenses are a bit pricier than the 28mm. You're probably going to pay around $200 to $300 for this lens, depending on the condition and your luck. So the third lens on the list is the 50mm f1.4. Now this lens is fantastic. It's also super low priced. It's very plentiful and it costs less than $100. You can probably find one for around $50 to $75. Now there are 2 different versions of this lens. There is the SSC version, which stands for something super coated. I don't remember exactly what it stands for. But this is a breech lock mount lens. So basically you put the lens on the camera and then it has this little ring that you twist and lock it into place. And this is the lens that I own today, actually. And I've gotten some really good results with it. There's also a newer version of the lens, the FDN or FD New Mount lens. And this is one that you sort of just press a button on the side, twist it, and lock it into place on the camera. So again, you can find either of these lenses for around $75, and it's a very high quality lens. You can use it for shooting portraits or street photography or general walkabout photography, and it's really good for all of these things. So the 4th lens on the list is the 85mm f1.8. So I did a full review of this lens about 1.5 years ago, and oh man, this is one of the sharpest lenses that I've ever used. Now you can get this lens for around $150 to $300, depending on the condition the lens is in and how lucky you are. Again, like the 50mm lens, there are 2 versions of this lens, the SSC version and the FDN version. Now I use the FDN version, which came out in 1979, and it is super sharp. Whether you're shooting at f1.8 or f4, this lens is outstanding. And I really love it for portrait photography. It's really great for taking close-up headshots and that sort of thing. So if you're interested in getting a really good portrait lens for kind of a budget price, the 85mm f1.8 is fantastic. And finally, we have the 5th lens on the list, which is the 100mm f2. Now this lens has the reputation of being one of the sharpest lenses that Canon has ever produced. And this could very well be true. Now I only had the opportunity to shoot with this lens a few times, but the results I got were very sharp and I was very satisfied with them. Now this lens is only good for really doing stuff like portrait photography or something where you need a little bit of a longer focal length. If you want to do something like landscapes or cityscapes or architecture, this is definitely not the lens to go with. Now the 100mm lens is a little bit harder to find than the 85mm, and I've seen prices that sort of range all over the place, but expect to pay around $225 to $300 for this lens. So again, I know this is quite a bit of information to put out in a video, so I've put links to all of these lenses in the description where you can get them from either eBay or KEH. Question of the day: what is your favorite lens in the Canon FD system? We'll see you soon, folks. This has been another episode of Dan Bullman Photography. Peace. And there's a police car or something. Ooh. Jesus, okay. It's getting wild up in here.